Okay. All right, now it's officially started. So anyways, if you haven't done your reading homework, please be sure to do that. So yesterday, we finished reading our story. Remember, we talked about the different visuals that were in here. We had real photos, we had diagrams, we had computer animations like right here. And then we talked about how there were sidebars, how there were subtitles. We talked about all those crazy things. We went over our vocab. We reviewed our root and suffixes. But today we are going to find the central idea of this lovely little section right here. So we're going to read it together. Then we're going to create one sentence that really sums the whole thing up, okay? But first, Mrs. Kneifels is going to read it to you, okay? Because that makes, except for this stupid little thing is in the way. Okay, so it is called No Ordinary Waves. So remember, we want to find the main the main idea or central idea out of these two paragraphs, okay? So, most waves are formed by wind that blows across the ocean's surface, pulling water with it. But a tsunami is started by a disturbance, such as an undersea earthquake that shifts water at the ocean floor. Water is thrust up from the bottom of the sea all the way to the ocean surface, and waves begin to radiate out in all directions. A tsunami wave hits the shallow water near land. It slows down but grows taller. Water at the shore is sucked into the giant wave, exposing fish, shells, and coral that were underwater moments ago. Then suddenly, a towering wave of water crashes onto the beach. So, pretend that's the only thing we've read. And I said, hey, can you sum up what this little 2 paragraphs is about? Well, first off, we know it's about tsunamis, right? So that's how I'm going to start my sentence. So, central idea. Tsunamis, blank. What can we say about tsunamis to form a sentence? Tsunamis, what? Raise your hand if you'd like to tell me maybe what might be the central idea. Maybe we can take more than one and see what we all think. Presley, your hand has been raised. Tell me, what do you think?
There are no ordinary waves.
Tsunamis are, instead of saying no ordinary waves, I'm going to say are not like ordinary waves. Mark said in the chat, he said tsunamis are different from normal waves. That would be good. So Mark and Presley, I agree with both of those. Tsunamis are not like ordinary waves, or tsunamis are different from normal waves. Either way, that sums up what the entire thing is about. We don't need to add what a tsunami actually is. We don't need to add what a normal wave actually is. We just need to say what the overall thing was about. And the overall thing was about the fact that tsunami waves and normal waves are different. Correct? Not the same, not alike. That is what the entire thing was about. Shake your head if you agree. Or tsunamis are caused differently than normal waves. That one would work too. Okay, so that is what the entire thing is about. Let's go to this one. Let's do one more. This little diagram. This is about a diagram, okay? So this one doesn't have a title, but we know it's a sidebar because it's in the different color background, and it was giving us extra information that didn't go exactly along with the story. So we know this was a sidebar. So we're going to find the central idea of this sidebar, okay? When it reaches the ocean surface, a coral's head stops growing upward. Only the sides, which are still underwater, continue to grow outward in rings, like the growth rings of a tree. You can tell how old coral is by counting the rings. Between earthquakes, the ocean's floor is slowly sinking. The coral, which is attached to the ocean floor, is sinking too. The coral head drops below the waterline, and the sides grow up to the water surface. During an earthquake, part of the ocean's floor springs up, and some coral heads are lifted half out of the water. The section of the coral above the sea dies, while the part still under the sea, it keeps growing. From above, the coral looks like a donut inside a series of bigger ones. Okay. So, Dun, 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 dun. Dun, dun. What is this entire thing about? Just in the chat, tell me, what were we talking about here? Coral. Yes, you are correct. I'm going to say the specific name of coral because we know what the specific name is over here. I just don't know how to pronounce it. But we know we're talking about this specific coral called the Porides coral. So now we need to say something about the coral that goes along with this. So it was about coral specifically, but it was about how coral grows. So we know that it can only grow underwater, right? It cannot grow out of water. If it's out of water, it dies. It also talks about how we can tell how old coral is. It talked about how coral is attached to the ground floor. So we just need to say something that's overall general use about coral. Mark said coral, this would be this coral. So the Porides coral can be used to predict earthquakes. That is a true statement because we can tell how old it is. So that would be one thing that would work. I don't know if that was, this section technically didn't really talk about how we predict the earthquakes. It just talks about how it grew. I would say this big section here, like from here to here, like the rising coral, paragraph 6 to paragraph, is that 8? Yeah, I would say paragraph 6 to paragraph 8, Mark. That would be a perfect central idea for those paragraphs. Coral can be used to predict the earthquakes. But here it was just about how it grows. So I think the main part of this was that Porides coral cannot grow out of water. And it sometimes grows in the shape of donuts. Don't mind my crazy handwriting. So yes, Paisley, they were able to read the coral, but this part I read here did not talk about them reading the coral. All it talked about was how it grows. It didn't talk about how we can predict earthquakes with it, and it didn't talk about how we can read it. It was just talking about how coral can grow underwater and it can't be grown out of water. Mark, that would be a perfect central idea. Mrs. Kneiffel's central idea was coral cannot be grown out of water, and it sometimes can grow in the shape of a donut. That would cover the majority of what was talked about. So it's really important to remember, because tomorrow on your test, you're going to have to find central ideas of things. Remember, central ideas is the main talking point. Like if someone was like, hey, what was that about? I would be like, oh, it's about how coral grows. Okay? If that's it. If Paisley said, Mrs. Kneiffel, what were those 3 paragraphs about? I would say it's about how coral grows. Okay? If someone said, hey, Mrs. Kneiffel, what was this section about? I would say, oh, that was about how tsunami waves are different than regular waves. Okay? So we have to remember central idea is the broad overview of what the entire thing is about. Okay? Everyone nod your head if you agree. Everyone good to go? Okay. So next part of your day is you're going to have plenty of time to do it. So no one has a single excuse not to do what I'm about to say. You have to take your assessment still. Look at 2 people who did not follow Mrs. Kneiffel's directions. Let's see who you are. Cadence, you did not follow Mrs. Kneiffel's directions. And Logan Westland, you did not follow Mrs. Kneiffel's directions. You should not have taken this assessment already. Anyways, today you have to take the selection quiz, which is only 5 multiple choice questions, not challenging. But of course, we're going to go through them together like we always do. That way, if you have any questions, Mrs. Kneifel can answer them for you right now. You are going to have to use your story for this. I'm letting you know that right now. Okay? You're going
I thought it was due yesterday, but that's why I did it.
didn't open up till this morning, Cadence. So regardless, I'm just saying, hopefully you did okay because you did it before Mrs. Kneifel went over it. So, anyways, question number 1. The passage states that the sun-done megahertz fault was storing energy that would result in a massive underground earthquake. What does massive mean? You're going to have to think. Well, Mark, I would say this one's a little bit more challenging because you do need to use your story for it. What does massive mean? Does it mean lengthy, heavy, tough, or large? You're going to have to answer that question. That is on context clues. Find that in the story. Read the context clues if you don't know. Number 2, what did Cy and the other scientists learn after examining samples of coral? So this is where you're going to go back to the reading the coral thing. Did they learn coral can grow tall enough to wipe out an entire village? Did they learn islands on top of continental plates were rising each year? First off, they found out the opposite. They were falling, not rising. So don't pick that one. Major earthquakes occurred about every 200 years. Or did they find out from the coral that some tsunamis can be up to 100 feet tall? The correct answer is in this story, okay? You should be able to find the answer for the story if you do not already know. Number 3, what evidence from the passage supports the fact that Tello Island was sinking? People started building their houses out of lightweight wood. Many islanders had moved away from the shore. Pathways were built higher ground. Wells were full of salty seawater. This is another one. If you go back to the story and find where we're talking about the island sinking, one of these will be there as an example for why the island is sinking. Mrs. Kneifel is literally picturing it in her brain right now. The answer is there. Number 4, according to the passage, what is the relationship between underwater earthquakes and tsunamis? That means, how are they connected? What is the relationship between them? Like our relationship, I'm the teacher, you're the student. We're connected through school. How are underwater earthquakes and tsunamis connected? Tsunamis cause underwater earthquakes. Tsunamis form as a result of underwater earthquakes. The size of tsunamis determines the severity of the underwater earthquake, or the season will affect whether a tsunami can develop after an underwater earthquake. We didn't read anything about seasons in our story, so don't pick D. D is not correct. And the final question, why did Cy and his colleagues recommend that people on the island use bamboo to build their homes? This is going to be towards the end of the story when they're rebuilding, okay? You know, they know all the damage that earthquakes can cause, so why are they saying use bamboo instead of cinder blocks? Bamboo is lightweight and will cause less damage than heavy concrete if toppled in an earthquake. Bamboo is expensive material, which means it's good quality building material. Bamboo is traditionally used to build villages, and this tradition should continue. Bamboo is flexible and easy to harvest. That is what you have to do for the rest of the day, is finish those 5 questions, okay? That is it. So you are going to leave me. You are going to finish that 5-question quiz. If you have any extra time, do read for AR, but that is all you're doing, okay? So you are taking the 5-question quiz. It has to be done before reading class tomorrow. Guess what? You have 25 minutes left in reading class. Do it right now. Get on HMH and go take the quiz now. Are there any questions? Ella, take the quiz right now.
Bye.
Any questions? Going once, going twice?
Bye.
Bye.
You may go, but go take the quiz right now.
Have a
Don't
good
take
day.
it later. Take it later. Take it now.
Mrs. Kneifel,
Yes.
I didn't understand the first question.
Let me go find it. I'm finding it. That's not what I wanted. I wanted the quiz. Hold on. No, that's not. Sorry. I exited out of it. I just got to find it. So the first question, okay, it was about a vocab word. What is massive? Does massive mean lengthy? Does massive mean heavy? Does massive mean tough? Does massive mean large? They're
Large.
talking about the Sundun megahertz fault. What does massive mean, okay? So you have to choose what you think massive means, all right?
Okay.
Okay,
Bye.
bye.
Thank you.
Yep.